after we get started here. So, all right, what is Salesfusion? And let me just start with sort of a high level. I would guess that everybody, for the most part, is probably quite familiar with email marketing, where you can blast out lots of content to a wide net of prospects and customers delivering your message. And that really speaks to the buyer journey that happens in the world we live in today. I've been in sales for some 25 years, started out my life making cold calls. And that was how you turned over enough rocks to find somebody to talk to that might buy something. But today, the buyer journey is vastly different than that. And Salesfusion has two basic tools built into it to really get your prospects and customers the information they're looking for, when they're looking for it, how they're looking for it, which is predominantly going to be through web searches. And then the second component of that is outbound marketing, which is your email blast, delivering relevant content about the goods and services you offer. And so Salesfusion does those two things, and then in combination with that, it shows all of that information in Saleslogix. And that's part of what I want to show you today. As Brianna said, the basic blocking and tackling of a modern industrial strength digital marketing solution today really does those two things, the web forensics and the email marketing, so that you can get your salespeople talking to these prospects and candidates at the right time when they are looking for information about you or your competitors. We need to align that moment in time with each other. And then the other part of the story is that a typical buyer journey today does begin with the prospect doing their own investigation, their initial investigation. They may or may not ever contact your company, even though they find that what you sell and promote is favorable. Timing is a big part of this whole story. So again, we want your salespeople to know when prospects are investigating, even though they may actually never contact you. We're going to give you an opportunity to contact them. But then what I was saying is, if they don't buy or enter into a sales cycle with you in CRM at that moment, the rest of the buyer journey is to put them on a nurture campaign. In other words, trickle out to them valuable content, meaningful content on a regular basis, so that when they transition from the tire-kicking investigation phase into more of a procurement mode, or a ready-to-buy mode, we'll call it, you are top of mind, because it's very likely you have competition and they're doing all the same things with your competitors. So the idea about nurturing a prospect who's not yet ready to buy is, again, a big part of the story. Well, how does this thing help me do all that? And so the first thing I'll show you is, if we jump over into our Saleslogix demo system here, we've got Brianna. I'm picking on her today. So she's a contact in our CRM database, and even though I've maybe never talked to her and I've never interacted with her live, I'm going to have built into CRM now, because of our integration with Salesfusion, it's literally copying all of the data about her journey into her contact record in Saleslogix. Now, I can click on the tabs and see what she's been doing. That's all true. But because it's native data in CRM, I can now build groups, call lists, campaign lists, reports, and so forth based on that data I've been collecting about her. So it's not just data that's sitting over in Salesfusion that I have to go run reports or whatever to find out about. It's now native data tied to her record, just like all of her other notes in history, emails, and phone calls we've maybe made in the past. Now all of her web activity is also part of her story about her interactions with our company. So every time she visits our website, which is customerfx.com, it's going to be generating a hit and a record in her contact record. And again, it's doing this all in the background, syncing all day long in little intervals. So she's going to have a constantly updating story about all the communications we've had, or she's had, through visiting our website. And that's what we're looking at here is web activities. Now remember, I also talked about emails being the other half of the story. If she has been getting emails from us, those also are going to show up as part of her data story in CRM. So every time she's gotten a newsletter and clicked on a link in the newsletter, all of that information is going to show up in this list. Not only what campaign she clicked the link from, which could be an embedded link in an email template we sent, we're going to know which of our web pages she visited and how long did she stay there. So we can see that she's clicked on some IntelliCTI information and visited a workshop page. So this is all information that's relevant to me understanding her buyer journey and what she's doing in investigating our company. So then also in the marketing tab, because Salesfusion is integrated with Saleslogix campaigns, as a sales rep, I can add her or take her out of the marketing campaigns that my marketing team came up with. So we do have webinars and we do have little showcase events we do for new Infor CRM updates and technical stuff and learning events and things like that. So I have the ability here to add and remove her as a sales rep from specific campaigns for whatever reason I feel is appropriate. So that's what you're seeing here is I can remove her from a particular newsletter, which is part of a nurture campaign, or I can add her on the fly here to some other campaign that maybe up till this point she has not been part of for whatever reason. So I can add her into other campaigns that I feel are appropriate because she's maybe expressed some interest in some product or some solution we have, or she's in a particular industry that we focus on. So I can bring her in and take her out of those particular campaigns so that she's included or not included within that. And then the other thing that's going to be happening through the integration is that if Bree chooses to stop receiving emails from us, it will automatically check the do not email for me so that I know, and you'll see an event in history that gets created that she has opted out for some reason out of our emails. So the whole opt-out story is part of the integration. Opting into specific campaigns is part of the story you get with the Salesfusion integration. And then the other piece I'll show you is the Salesfusion dashboard. So if we click on that, it brings up her particular dashboard. And this is actually pulling data directly from Salesfusion because she also exists over there as a contact, and it's a complete mirror image copy of her data. So if you have custom fields and things like that, those are going to map automatically over into Salesfusion. So we added a custom field here called newsletter. We send out these newsletters. And I checked the box because I wanted her on that particular campaign. I showed you could do it down here in the marketing tab. But I have a rule set up in Salesfusion that says, look, if I have a contact that I've checked that box, that person should be forevermore included in all of our future newsletters. So it automatically added her to the newsletter list of contacts, and the only thing I had to do was check that little box. So if we had a Christmas card list or some other, common marketing campaign or whatever we did, you can just add check boxes or even drive it from any field based on any value in any field, Salesfusion can respond to that and do something with that regarding your marketing efforts. So simple example, again, this is a basic webinar. Just, hey, check the box, she's on the newsletter list until I uncheck it, and then she would be removed from that list because it is a dynamic integration. Okay, so jumping back to the dashboard Salesfusion story, I also have the ability for marketing to create templates for me so that if I want to do a one-off email and I have kind of standard professional verbiage that marketing designed for me, I can choose from a drop-down of all these templates marketing created and send her a one-off email. And so I did that. I have a Infor response standard template email I wanted to send to her today. It's got merge fields built into it, and so it's going to automatically pull her name into that. I also added the word Happy Holidays at the end of it because I wanted to edit it slightly before I send it to her. And then when I click Send Email, instantly she's going to get this email, and you see message sent successfully to this contact. So it's going to say, hello, Brianna. It's going to have some hyperlinks in it that are going to start recording against her record. If she clicked on Infor CRM and went to their website, I'm going to know that. It's going to send me, or it's going to update her history. Now, I can also have it send me an email if she does that. So if this is a high-value click, like says, for example, click here if you want somebody to call you, well, we can have it send the salesperson, because every one of your salespeople is a Salesfusion user, by the way. So it's going to look up her account manager and send that account manager an alert email that this person clicked a link that you wanted to know about in an email that was sent, whether that email is one of these templates or part of a campaign we define. So I can also see, well, what lists is she on? And so these are both your groups of records in Saleslogix, because your groups that you build in Saleslogix sync to Salesfusion, and then those groups can be used as the targets for your campaigns. So she's on a couple of different lists for different reasons, and will be included anytime we send an email to one of these groups that she's a part of. That's probably fairly logical. Now, everything that she does, all these interactions that we saw, those are all generating scores. And so I can assign points to how valuable to me it is that she visited our website. And so perhaps every time she visits our website, I'm going to give her a point, a score. And you can see that her score total today is 80. So if you take every email she's gotten from me and opened, I'm going to give that maybe 3 points. Every time she visited our web page, I'm going to give her another point and another point for each event that happens to. So over time, her score is going to keep growing, which tells me how interested she is in what we offer. And obviously, I can then react to that, those high scoring, and I get emails all day long that say, so-and-so has scored above a threshold, Scott, that you chose, whether it's 50 points or whatever. I get an email for everybody that hit the 50-point mark, which tells me, you know what, maybe it's time to call that person. They've been all over my website. They open our emails. They're obviously interested in what we're sending out and what we're offering on our website for valid content. And so it tells me this is the next guy you should call. Then we'll look at her totals for emails, landing pages, and web hits. So this is another kind of view into that same piece of information. In the last 30 days or so, she's got 9 emails that she's opened, and we can see the opens versus how many were sent versus how many of them she clicked on a link inside of that email. Then we see web traffic here. How many times in the last 30 days has she hit my website? And that's what you're seeing in these reports. And then finally, the journey itself is just a chronological listing of everything that's happened, the latest thing at the top. So the very last thing she ever did was open an email, or rather was sent an email about being interested in CRM, because I just sent that 2 minutes ago, and it's probably already in your inbox. So that's what the buyer journey is. So hopefully that makes sense to you, that this is the beauty of the integration, is that it's not marketing over there and sales over here. We are working as a team, working together to nurture leads, find leads, get sales involved in leads, and then if they stall, keep them on a nurture track until the timing is appropriate where they're ready to buy. I want to be one of the ones that they contact. Okay, so now that's, so far we've just been picking on Brianna and specifically what she's been doing as a contact in our database, but then there's also more global data that's showing up. It's the same data, but it shows me more of a spreadsheet look. It's a list view. You know what list views are. And so it's a listing of all the contact activity that's been happening with Salesfusion right up to the minute. So every person in my database that ever hit my website, they're going to generate one of these records, and of course you can drill into these records from here. So this is the contacts that have been in the system recently, accounts that have been in there recently. Now, here's what really gets powerful, is that you may have somebody that's been visiting your website for 6 months and they've been getting information, but you don't know their email address yet. But we actually, through Salesfusion, we cookie their machine. So we record the identity of their computer, and then if they ever open one of my emails or fill out a form on my website and reveal their email address, we now backfill and tie all that historical information and score all of that stuff, and we can now give you the name of their company, their email address, and match that up to the matching email address in Saleslogix or Infor CRM. So it does take time to sort of build up this information, but the more they interact with you, the more the system becomes aware of who they are and how you can get in touch with them. Once that tracking cookie marries their machine ID up with their email address, you're good to go, and you can now reach out to them. Okay, so now we're going to go back to Salesfusion, and again, this is a basic discussion about how most people, I think, use it. We talked about the web tracking and the web forensics, but it's also a wonderful email generation engine. So here we're looking at kind of a top-level dashboard, as it were, and you can see that in the last 30 days, this is the number of hits we've been getting on our website. So so far in the last 30 days, we've had 8,000 or so. We hover around that mark in every 30-day period. So we get about 8,000 hits to our website every 30 days. And then this also shows you our email traction. And so we've sent out, 2,195 emails. And that's ramping. As you can see, we can see emails that are clicked and opened. It also has hooks into event registration like GoToMeeting and WebEx and Link. So if you want to use this to track and integrate with your web conference solution, it has that information as well. Now, another interesting one you'll see on here is Twitter. And so we're also hooked into Twitter, and so if somebody responds to a Twitter post that our company has out there, it also generates these hits and scores. So that Twitter traffic, social media traffic, becomes part of our digital story when it comes to our marketing and our exposure. So you can also see, like I opened up the November newsletter, and we can see some basic things like the open rate and the click rate, anybody that unsubscribed. So we have pretty good success with the open rate for what we send out, and that's what you're looking at there. So let's look at a couple of different ones here, and then I want to get into emails. So this one is monitoring our website. So all the traffic that's hitting my website is generating all this data. So I get to see in this particular date range I picked, where are people coming from who are getting to my website? And you can see that the great majority are from external links or organic links or from search words. And if you look over here, you can see in the upper right, what are the web pages they're spending time on? What page in particular is of interest to people? So we have a pretty standard spread that you're seeing here. People asking about Crystal and function strings for developers. Not sure what all that is. But as I hover over these little pie slices, you can see which are your top 10 web pages that are generating the most time from people staring at them and consuming your content, right? And then you have a little key down here too. Now we can also see, well, which external link are they coming from? And no surprise, Google is the winner. The great majority of people are Googling things and then finding my website. And so that's what this is happening here. Then we can see keywords that they're typing in to find my site. And so that's what this key is down here, is the keywords that are generating the most traffic from Google searches. So Saleslogix password 15, Crystal reports, and scoring. You know, so hopefully this makes sense to you what you're seeing here. So these are the words that are generating hits to my web page from organic searches. And then I see some traffic pictures going on here. This is the web activity month over month. So we can we're pretty steady. We don't see any wild swings. So we're only halfway through December, so that's a smaller bar than November and so forth. But we actually started with Salesfusion back here in May, which is why we don't have any data prior to that. But again, it's a tracking mechanism to show me what's going on there. All right, and then there's similar to that is for marketing, and if you're using it to generate leads, which it can do, it can generate leads and create brand new leads in Saleslogix for you through the lead generation engine, which generally is usually based on them filling out landing pages on your website. So I don't want to get too far into the weeds in all these reports. Suffice to say, it's incredibly robust how much data you can get out of it, which is great. But to me, the real value as a salesperson would be that data is sitting in Saleslogix, and now I can do something with it rather than just staring at pretty charts and graphs. So then the next thing I want to show you is, let's talk a little bit about emails. So for emails, it's a pain to generate these things. It seems like they never look quite right, and you got to know HTML, and a lot of the tools I've used in the past are just painful to make a beautiful looking email to send to people, right? And so Salesfusion has done a lot of work and actually created what I think is probably the best email builder I've ever seen in one of these solutions, and we've used other ones in the past, and there's other good ones out there too, but I think they've really done a nice job. And I just wanted to show this to you quickly here. Is their new wizard-driven email generation tool. So obviously, to start this process, you would build your list based on market segments or groups in Saleslogix or groups you built in Salesfusion. So once you know who you want to send it to, now you have to build the actual template that you're going to send them. And that's what this little wizard is going to show me here if it ever comes back to life. Never fails with these demos. You always get some technical glitch. Where'd we go? back and try it again. My internet bogging me down. Trying the new email builder. You still have the old one too if you like more of the WYSIWYG style, but it's not something I like very well. Okay, so here's what I mean by the wizard is you can do just a standard email or a text only, which we don't really see that too much anymore. And then A/B testing is really cool because you can build two versions of the same content with slight changes in the verbiage or words and see which one performs better. So it helps you as marketing people define, well, what kind of content and what kind of verbiage or colors do people open more often? And so we'll just pick on a standard one here, and we'll give it a name. I'm sure test has been used many times, but we'll give it something like that. What's the subject line? Again, to get through this quick here. And then it also sends it from your domain, which I really like. So all these emails that Salesfusion is kicking out for you are actually coming from you. So they're not coming from, at HubSpot or Constant Contact or something like that. They're personalized emails that are coming from you and or your salespeople. So we can actually pull the account manager's name for the contact that's part of the list that's going to get the email so that your salespeople's personal customers or account managers as customers, it's coming from that guy or girl. And then if it gets replied to, it shows up in their inbox, which is great. We can also tie into Google Analytics. That's a free service that Google offers. So you can tie your analytics code to these emails as well if you want to. And then it says, do you want to use your own code? Maybe you are HTML gurus and you don't want to use somebody else's wizard. You can plop your own code in, but we're going to look at their new cool drag and drop one today because I think it's really good for those of us that don't know HTML coding. So you can see it's walking you through this little wizard. And honestly, it's never usually this slow. So you can have 1, 2, or 3 columns, and generally emails, you want them one column, but that's up to you. You can also use, their fancy themes if you want, or your own themes, but let's keep it simple today and just say not one column. Okay, so now we're actually in the builder, and this is where you're going to be dragging components, and components are like buttons and dividers and images, and there's a whole asset library function where you can store your graphics and logos and all the repurposable graphical content. You store all that on Salesfusion, and you can pull that stuff in through the asset management system. So that's what this is saying. Images and captions, your social media links, you can plop all those down at the bottom, which most people do. So it's going to have a Facebook link. These are all pre-linked to all of our Customer FX social media sites. And I can throw an image up here and some text down here. And, at this point, I can then just go to my asset library and say, well, I think I have a cow here. And, yeah, it is a cow. Okay, and then your text block, you can just obviously type it into there, whatever you want to say. And you can put in dividers and so forth in there and play around with the image, which you can see here. You can add a row, add a column if you want right on the fly. And then if I want to add my text, it brings up a text editor here. Here we go. And it's got, the standard kind of word stuff like, well, what fonts do you want to use and what size? Is there any hyperlinks to web pages? You can throw that kind of thing in here. Tables, copy, paste, nothing new here. But it's just really easy to use, which is, what I like about it. So, we've thrown together now a quick little email with some cows on it. And now I can pick, well, who should get this thing? And this is where These are your Saleslogix groups that are syncing over, or you can build segmentations in Salesfusion based on their data if you want, either or. All those lists are available to you, and so you just pick and choose, like we'll choose the customer FX staff and drag that over and let her rip from there. And then, whoops, didn't do it. So slow. There we go. So I have this list, but I can keep going back and adding more and more lists if you want. So I'm not sending it just to one list that I have. I can send it to multiple lists. So once I have at least somebody that I'm going to send this thing to, now I can also exclude people. Maybe there's somebody on this list that I didn't really want to get it, even though they're in the list. So you can do things like that. Now, the next thing is, well, when do you want it to go out? And, you know, it's up to you to decide that. Maybe you want to go right now or sometime in the middle of the night, whatever you want to do. So I say next again. And it must be thinking about it. Well, let's see. Oh, there we go. Okay. So here's what they're going to get. Standard email coming from me. The staff at Customer FX is going to get cows in their inbox. And it's going to send today. So this is kind of the last check that, well, do I really want this to go? Sure. I don't care. And away it goes. And so it's going to start sending them out within a few minutes. And there you go. We just created an email blast. Off it went. And it's now going to start counting sends, opens. I forwarded to my friend. I clicked on a link that was in it. And then, you know, this is going to repost for me on Facebook and Twitter. And it's also going to have links in it if they want to find me on Facebook and find me on Twitter and LinkedIn. It's going to take you to all those sites. And it records all that, too, every time they clicked on the Twitter link from in our email. All right. So, Bree, that is what I was hoping to show today. I probably used up more time than I should have, but just wondering if anybody had any questions.
Scott, we do have some questions, and that email you sent me is in my inbox. So it's there and it works. Let's see. Our first question is, can the lead source be reset after a certain time or only look back 3 months or something similar? Could the look back time frame be different for different customers? So I think that's from...
Yes. It's based on a scoring profile that I built. And so I can have different scoring profiles that I can assign to different things that happen. So the answer is yes. You can have as many different scoring profiles, active or inactive, and then assign those profiles to different people or different events that are happening. So you, depending on how you want it to perform, for example, I could have a scoring profile built just on this email of cows I sent out, right? It could have its own scoring profile independent of this global profile I have running.
All right.